Hello and welcome to Creativity Uncovered. My name is Abby Gatling and I am on a journey to uncover how everyday people find inspiration, get inventive and open their imagination. Basically, I want to find out how people find creative solutions at home, at work, at play and everything in between. And as always, my goal for this podcast is that by the end of it, you'll be armed with a whole suite of tried and tested ways to summon creativity the next time you need it. Now, this episode is going to be a little bit different. It is going to be a solo episode with just myself and my thoughts. And I wanted to make this episode to cover off on a topic that kind of plagues me. And I think it plagues me because I see so much of myself in it. And that is when people paint so well, but then they, completely deny being an artist. When people sing beautifully, but then they never claim to be a singer. And when someone's DIYs are just absolutely amazing, yet they still say they aren't handy. My basic frustration is when people feel like they just aren't good enough at something to be able to call themselves a master of their craft. And I'm guilty of that. And I guess that's why it frustrates me so much. I was watching a webinar the other day and the psychiatrist Carl Jung was brought up. And which is not unusual. He actually has a fair bit of work on creativity and the unconscious mind, and it's very interesting. I encourage you to have a look into it. But, I hadn't thought about Carl Jung for a long time because, who does think about him on the regular? But after that podcast, it just sort of reminded me of this other famous quote that he said, which was, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." And so when I was thinking about this episode, I was like, God, that quote literally just sums up how I feel about this. I just get so frustrated that people are constantly downplaying their awesome creativity. And I think that it irks me so much because I also do it. So, story time. I got asked to be a guest on a podcast last year to talk about marketing. And the thought of it absolutely terrified me. It made me break out in a cold sweat. And after I was asked, I was sort of like running through every worst case scenario that may happen on the podcast. And there was things like, what if I get asked a question and I wouldn't have a clue how to answer it? What if they might ask me something extremely technical and I get flustered and I say the wrong thing? Or then I'd just be literally too squeaky to be on a podcast and no one would want to listen to it. And so basically I was 100% doubting my skills and my ability in this area, in marketing. And I've been working in marketing for such a long time. And I've been running my own business since 2019. And I've delivered countless presentations and training sessions. And I've helped literally hundreds of businesses during that time. So, of course, I have something to say and I have value to contribute. But the idea of being asked to be on a podcast and not knowing what's coming up in terms of the questions asked literally made me freeze. And I'm sorry to say that I really hummed and I ha'd over the whole thing, and I was really tardy in getting back to the person who asked me. And eventually it just kind of went away and I didn't do the podcast. And then I just sort of sat back and I was like, whew, I dodged a bullet here because I'm not going to be found out that I am a giant fraud. Seriously, my imposter syndrome was absolutely raging, 100%. So I kind of just like put it to the back of my mind, and I told myself, I'm not ready for that yet. I don't know enough about it. I need to research more. Maybe I've been too much practice, and I need to get back into looking at research papers and reading books and articles, or maybe take a course before I can legitimately be a person on a podcast talking about marketing. So it went away, and I just didn't think about it anymore. And that was probably about 12 months ago. It was last year sometime. And, 12 months later, lo and behold, I now have my own podcast. It's surprising, right? Well, it's not that surprising because I actually partly have this podcast because I seriously regret not taking that opportunity. I regret it. I do. And look, I know I can reach back out to them and ask them to be on the podcast again. But I regret it not because I think it was going to be me missing out on a major career opportunity. It could have been that, or it may not have been that. It could have just been a fun day. But really my biggest regrets are thinking back on the situation and how I managed it. It was just so not aligned with my personality. And for those of you who know me, you know that I don't stray away from the hard stuff. I generally push myself to the edge and I jump into scary situations with both feet. And I'm usually excellent at closing the loop. My communication is good. So there's just so many levels of disappointment in my managing of that situation. Because for some reason, I let my imposter syndrome win that battle. I ghosted the guy who asked me to be on the podcast and I didn't go ahead with it. So I guess that's why when I see this happening with other people, it really does frustrate me. And it's why I felt compelled to do this episode. So here it is. This is from me to you. Let me reframe it for you. Even if you think you may not be good enough at painting, singing, DIY, problem solving, whatever your area of creativity is, I'm here to say that you are. You are good enough because you're out there doing it and you're giving it your best. And you're trying it day after day, week after week, and slowly honing your skills. You're showing up, and that is so much of the process. You're not ghosting it and running away like I did. So it really doesn't matter whether you make money out of it or what you're producing is 100% perfect. That doesn't even factor in it. If you are painting and you enjoy it, you're an artist. If you're singing and it makes you feel alive, you're a singer. If you act, you are an actor. I could go on forever, but, like, for example, if you do manage to do something amazing and DIY in your home, you're bloody awesome. And I want a few tips, seriously. And for me, I have to think about this and put it back and think like I wouldn't have been asked to be on that podcast unless they knew that I was dang good at what I do. They believed it in me. I just needed to believe it myself. So here I am sharing my regrets over imposter syndrome and making a commitment to you that I'm not going to let it hold me back again. I'm certainly going to try to not let it hold me back again. No one is perfect. But I'm also committing to you to be your biggest cheerleader when you're feeling just a little bit out of your depth and you feel like an imposter. And finally, I guess this is also an apology to the podcaster who took a chance on me. I'm super sorry for ghosting you. Yeah, it's very awkward and I'm sorry. And I would love the opportunity again if you would like to do it. This episode is really about encourage you to stop waiting for the moment to feel like you've mastered it. Stop waiting to be recognized by others and to try and squash that internal imposter syndrome. Because you're worthy, I'm worthy, you're enough, and I'm enough. And if you ever need a reminder to know that, absolutely call me up and I will drill it into you. I've learned my lesson and I'm on a mission to help others break through it as well. So that's it. That's my take on imposter syndrome and sharing my dirty little secret. Thank you so much for everyone who has tuned in to listen to Creativity Uncovered today. I hope that this episode has inspired you and given you a bit of confidence. And as always, I hope that it helps you summon creativity the next time you need it. Take care. If you've made it this far, a huge thank you for your support and tuning into today's episode. Creativity Uncovered has been lovingly recorded on the land of the Cubby Cubby people, and we pay our respect to elders past, present, and emerging. This podcast has been produced by my amazing team here at Crisp Communications, and the music you just heard was composed by James Gatling. If you liked this episode, please do share it around and help us on our mission to unlock more creativity in this world. You can also hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episode releases.